Hey, welcome to the Bitcoin panel. I'm Chris. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yes. It's the Bitcoin panel. It's that time. Adrian's already here. What's up, man? See? What the frack? It's Friday. Yeah. So Carl's here from BTC, Studio BTC. What's up, man?
It's good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good. You've been busy, eh? Making videos with Tatum?
Yeah, silly stuff. Yeah.
No, that's really
Hopefully
good.
making people laugh. So
Yeah, I'm not like a comedian type person, but when I see successful people, there's always a comedic element because if you're too serious, sometimes like people, it comes off too strong, right? Like, and people sort of back away.
sure.
But if it's funny, then you could almost say anything. I don't know. But yeah, so Tatum has that going for him for sure.
He does.
So AC's gonna be coming by too, I think.
Cool.
But yeah, so look, this is the Bitcoin panel. We just talk about Bitcoin. So if you're in the chat, say hi. Give me a yeah, oh yeah in the chat. And yeah, it's been an interesting week of Bitcoin. There's been a bunch of stories. Has any big story grabbed you, Carl?
No, the funny thing about the Bitcoin Twitter too is like if you're out for a day or two, you come back and there are all these inside jokes that you have no idea what they mean. Like it took me so long to figure out what was going on with Breedlove yesterday or the day before. And yeah, it's goofy.
Right? What I don't even know what's happening with.
There you go. He posted a picture. It was a video of or a series of pictures of him and his girlfriend, and then people got up in arms about him spouting things about low time preference and yet not sticking with his original woman. So anyway, sorry,
Okay.
I wanted to just basically reference it but not get into it. So
Yeah, no, that's enough. I mean that describes it pretty
just
well.
just as an example, like you're gone for a day or two and you get back and there's all these jokes that people are making about whatever, and it almost made me wonder, is there some kind of like Bitcoin gossip rag account that I need to subscribe to just to get the skinny on stuff like that without having to wade through the muck?
Yeah. Well, that happens on Nostr as well, and sometimes on Nostr they go even crazier. And I love Nostr. I'm on there too. I love it. I love it more than Twitter, of course. But there's even stuff like as it's unfolding, people are posting about this thing, and you're like, "What is it?" And then you even ask somebody, "What is this?" And they're like, "Yeah, I don't know." People like it gets so blurry on Nostr that literally most people don't even know where it started, and there's no way to know how it started.
Sure. You try to search for it, and all you can see is references to it, and not the actual thing.
Yeah, and it's
like,
just people being goofy.
It's one of those things where you're like, I don't know where 58K gang started, and I'm too afraid to ask. One of those things,
Yeah.
If you weren't there in the moment, all you know is that, oh, it's a reference. I can make this reference, and then people think I have some kind of cred, but I don't actually know what it means. So
yeah,
I mean, I have a vague idea of what 58K is and why it's important and everything, but I don't know the full history of it, honestly.
Yeah. And yeah, so social media is a crazy place. I have to deal with all this every day because when I get my videos together, I have to look at all, sort of gather all the big news stories and
Thank you.
Yeah.
You got somebody feeding me off camera here.
That's great. This little arm. That's cool. So yeah, I mean, in fact, the video I made today, it's like, I think it's the worst video I've ever made. Like because I rushed it. Yeah, it's just, I mean, I teased this video that was 1 minute and 54 seconds. I should have just played it, but I just referenced it and I told the audience, oh yeah, you can go check it out. The link's below. It's like, But anyway, and the whole reason is because I'm trying to hurry up because we got to do the Bitcoin panel. So, which is not the right way to do it. So anyway, I'm learning. Managing all this is not that easy. But yeah, I mean, as far as Bitcoin news and stuff like that, I mean this week we had on Monday we had the big price pump, and since then we've been coming back down, and it's just the whole psychology of how people handle Bitcoin day to day is very, very interesting. I mean, I know, Carl, we've talked about it before that you're, obviously don't follow the price hour to hour.
No.
And probably not even day to day all the time, right?
No. I mean, there are some days when I don't even think about it, And it used to be the kind of thing where I would wake up and the first thing I would do is check the price, or I would have, I had an alarm ticker set off so that when it would go below a certain price, I would get a little notification on my phone or things like that. And the funny thing about that was that I forgot that I had that set, and I had it set to when Bitcoin went below 60K or something like that from the previous bull run. And then that alarm went off this run, and I was like, wait, what is this? But yeah.
That's funny. Hello, AC. Welcome to the Bitcoin panel.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How are you?
Yeah, doing good. We just started. How are you feeling today, AC?
Another day.
Another day? But it's Friday.
It is Friday.
Yeah. So a lot of, I know it's not Bitcoin. And so, okay. I don't know how to start talking about this because, the channel's called Fractal Bitcoin. And technically I'm a Bitcoin maxi for sure. Like there's Bitcoin and there's everything else, right? That's clear. That's not even question. It's not a question. But I'm not a Bitcoin maxi like some of these other guys who are just complete a-holes, right? I'm not like that. I think people have freedom to do whatever they want, even if it's stupid, even if they want to get scammed, right? Go ahead, get scammed, right? But this week is, this big news about Ethereum ETF, and it just, and I have some thoughts about that, and I want to talk about that. So, and if you're a Bitcoin maxi who's an a-hole, turn off the channel. Go away. Go F yourself. GFY, MFer. I can't stand Bitcoin maxis who are a-holes. Really. F you all. I hate you. You're children. You're absolute effing children. Thank you. Now go away. All right. So I have some thoughts about this Ethereum thing. And not about Ethereum itself, but more about how what's happening in the more broad monetary space, how it affects Bitcoin and how it affects the global monetary space. So before I give all my thoughts, do either of you want to even talk about this, or are you afraid of the Bitcoin maxis? Oh my God. And if you're afraid of the Bitcoin maxis, that's fine. That's totally fine. Yeah.
I don't really have an opinion on it. I mean, I was surprised by it. I didn't think that it passed, or it passes all four parts of the Howey test. So I assumed it was going to be categorized as security, and it wouldn't have been, approved as an ETF. But for whatever reasons, a lot of people think that it's politically driven to showcase that the current administration is supportive of air quote crypto. Either way, it happened, and I think that ultimately, in the long run, Ethereum is going to underperform versus Bitcoin, and people who want to go into that ETF minus staking, they'll do that to their own detriment. So,
makes sense, yeah. Carl, do you have any thoughts, or do you want to just pass?
I don't have many. I'm not opposed to talking about it, but I've been wondering a little bit this last week, like what's the for the normies out there, like how hard is it to adopt something like Bitcoin has a narrative of digital gold, right? So it's pretty easy to wrap your head around that. But the further you go out on that curve with Ethereum and other altcoins and different things like that, you have to have all these new narratives. And how is that going to affect adoption for the normies? Because you've got the S curve of technology adoption, you know, and we're still pretty low on that curve. But at a certain point, it's gonna ramp up. But the ease of use is going to be a big factor for any cryptocurrency, you know. And there are going to have to be custodial solutions. You know, I know people hate that, you know, but you know, not your keys, not your coins, and I believe in that as well. But I also believe that we're going to have simple solutions for the masses to get mainstream adoption. So, yeah, how many coins can people wrap their heads around and adopt and, you know, start using? I feel the further you go away from Bitcoin, the harder that is adoption wise.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, I agree with both you guys. And the thought I wanted to express was that, you know, when the Bitcoin ETF happened, in a way, I thought that it was justified because of what Bitcoin is, right? And because Bitcoin is completely different than crypto. And then when this Ethereum ETF is happening, it surprised me in a way, but it didn't surprise me. But it made me go back to the foundational idea that, along the lines of what you said, AC, that it's just the people in the financial sector, all the companies and all the traders and all the institutions, they just want to make money. So they see Ethereum and Bitcoin and probably everything else as a way to make money, as a way to fleece the normie. So it is in their best interest to get an Ethereum ETF and every other single crypto ETF because they want all the normies to FOMO in and get wrecked. And so in a way was surprising because of the whole security versus a commodity thing, but in a way it's not surprising. And I don't like it because a lot of normal people are going to get ripped off or they're going to get wrecked. Let's put it that way, one way or the other. And I don't like that. I was talking to my wife. I said, whenever I talk about Bitcoin to anyone who's new into Bitcoin, I literally, the first thing I tell them is there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. And Bitcoin is the real deal and everything else is not the real deal. And so that's the first thing you have to understand about Bitcoin and crypto. And people appreciate when I tell them it that way. But what I see in general is just the mainstream financial industry. They see an opportunity to make a ton of money and they're going to bend the rules and do all their shenanigans. And it sucks to see it because the end loser is going to be the normie who knows nothing about anything. And they're going to, you know, FOMO in. And we know what happens, right? They FOMO in near the top and then it starts coming down and they panic and they sell and they lose money and they get screwed. So, anyway, to sum up, it's just the financial industry is looking to take advantage of normies any way they can. That's sort of my point.
Yeah, and you know, the writing was on the wall for that almost immediately after the approval. Like if you were paying attention to Larry Fink, you know, he started off with it being a flight to quality and then fast forward to the approval. And then I think it was like a week or two later, he started talking about real world assets and tokenization of everything. So you knew that was part of his playbook. But like I said earlier, I thought that there would be regulatory scrutiny that would have prevented it from getting approved. But here we are.
But that's part of the realization. we think the SEC is real. We think the government is real. They're just an effing cartel trying to make money. When you look at it through that lens, everything makes sense. They're just a cartel. Explain to me how they're not a cartel. Please, anyone. That's literally what they are. They use force and aggression to dominate other people. So, I mean, it's not surprising that they're doing this, right? But to get back to Bitcoin, I think, and you guys know I smoke a lot of hopium, but I think none of this is going to affect Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to stay the course, and there's going to be craziness happening, and Bitcoin is just going to, like a strong, powerful, majestic king, just walk straight through the fire. You guys agree with that?
Yeah. Did you see Jack Mallers on Bloomberg?
Yes.
Yesterday? It feels like you're referencing some of that stuff without talking about it directly. I pasted that link there in the chat for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I kind of am. Yeah.
Right.
You know, another good one with Jack is him on Pomp's show the other day. You know, Pomp it was a very good banter between the two, because Pomp took, I would say, a little bit more less toxic maxi perspective.
Sure.
Whereas Jack was very much full on maxi, and I thought it was a great conversation between the two on Ethereum and Bitcoin and what is going to happen kind of moving forward.
Yeah, and I would like to point out something, just because you, again, made a distinction there between a Bitcoin maxi, like, being a Bitcoin maxi there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's just saying Bitcoin is the real thing. In essence, what Michael Saylor said, there is no second best. That's fine. But some people are absolute a-holes. I've had people, I approached someone to talk about doing a show together about Bitcoin. And they researched me outside. After we talked, I guess, they researched me and found out that years ago, I had put a couple of my fractals up as NFTs. And the guy wrote me a note and was like, oh, I don't know if we can do this. Like what? So what I'm saying is there's Bitcoin maxis, but you can either be a normal, mature person, or you can be an a-hole. So that's the difference I make. Maturity versus immaturity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I smoke a lot of hopium. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things about Bitcoin is that it's so many different things. It's almost like what it is depends on which part of the elephant you're examining with a blindfold, like that old analogy. Because you've got the classic definitions of money. You've got medium of exchange, unit of account, store of value. I just posted the other day, the failure of Bitcoin to achieve status as a unit of account is due in part to its meteoric appreciation. What a massive disappointment. So you can't price things in Bitcoin or Satoshis when the value keeps changing so quickly. You do have to have something a little more sedentary, like the dollar, and that's one of the chief roles of the dollar right now for people like myself who are Bitcoin believers. Is it's just a way of figuring out what does this do for you in the real world right now? You know, or what's the goal? You know, what's your, I'm deleting my profile and heading to a beach somewhere. What's that number for you? Or, you know, everybody's goals and things are different. But yeah, and the debates about is it this or is it that are so funny to me, because isn't that one of the things that we love about Bitcoin, is that it's all of those things, you know, or on its way to becoming all of those things. Definitely not unit of account, not yet. But I'm okay. I'm okay if it's not unit of account for a long time, because that means good stuff's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's it's unfolding. It's beautiful, and everybody is at their own. There's a learning curve, and we're all at different places on the learning curve. And some people aren't even on the learning curve yet, right? So,
sure.
Yeah, the other thing with that unit of account piece is I think it drives home the thoughts, at least my thoughts, on time preference, because as the price fluctuates and is still volatile, if I'm going to purchase something, I almost always balance it out between, well, do I really need that or do I want that? And how many sats can I buy with that amount? Do I have, a low enough time preference to decide, hey, I can wait because it's going to be cheaper when priced in Satoshis in the future?
yeah, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah. Have you guys seen there's a website called bitcoinorshit.net. And actually, this might be a different one that I'm seeing. But basically, it's got things that you could buy. Like the first one is an Apple HomePod, which is released in February of 2018 for $299, and it says which equals 0.03 Bitcoin. So if you had bought that, if you hadn't bought it and bought Bitcoin instead, you'd have this much money, $2,361. So it just goes through all kinds of things that you could have bought and what your opportunity cost was with Bitcoin in the meantime, which is it's a good exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. It's hilarious.
Yep. Yep.
They've got this button that says, I regret nothing.
Yeah, so far this bull run, have you guys had any family or friends ask you about Bitcoin? Because I've had actually two people, complete non-Bitcoiners, non-crypto people, just normies, just start to ask, well, what is it? Where do you buy it? That's always one of the first questions. Have you guys had any?
It's funny. I forget which show it was. I think it was one with Tatum, and I said I got 2 text messages. That number is bumped up to 2 more, so I've got a total of 4 messages from people asking about Bitcoin. I still think it's early. I think that I still think faces are going to melt. People aren't going to believe it, but it just takes time. It's one of those where the expectation is, hey, we're post-halving, post-ETF, and it's, poking the stick or using the stick to poke the rock that isn't moving. But I think it just takes time for everything to kind of evolve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I haven't had many, honestly. And I think if there have been conversations, I was the instigator. So, yeah.
So, Carl, what have you been doing with Studio BTC? Because you guys are producing, media
The
for folks.
the last thing we did was the episode with Vivek Ramaswamy for Between Two Aces, which was fun.
I thought it was hilarious.
Thank you.
And the comments too. I'm not gonna call anyone out, but somebody had left a comment, and it was like, that's so immature and disrespectful. And then some of the replies is like, is somebody gonna tell him?
Right.
Yeah. It was great.
One of my favorites was Bob Burnett jumping in there and being like, "You don't know what you're talking about. This is hilarious."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. So what was your opinion then of the the ad read over the top of Vivek's pontification? AC?
Kind of knowing the channel and the theme and the humor, I thought it was hilarious. Somebody who probably isn't in the know, and they saw Vivek's name and they wanted to jump on and hear what he had to say. I could see how some people might have been bothered by it, but I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, actually, the thing my wife didn't like it. She understands. I can explain it to her, and she understands why it's funny. She doesn't think it's funny. That's okay. It's different things for different people,
Yeah,
and that's okay. It's definitely a niche show, so people are gonna not like it, and I'm totally okay with that. I had put up a little poll to see if people wanted to see what Vivek was actually saying, and some people were like yes, and some people were like no, it's fine, leave it alone. And what I really wanted to do was to say, okay, you guys asked to see it, so here's the footage, and then play it, but then Tatum's face is there in the ad read again, and then Tatum or I come up over the top of that and say, gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. We lost the original footage in a boating accident. Here's what I think he was saying at the time, and try to do it from memory, but and then reel the joke back in, go ahead and play the footage or whatever. But
yeah.
I don't know if
that would be great.
That's awesome. Yeah, part of the humor is a dry humor, and also there's the humor aspect, and then there's the drawing people in aspect, like the novelty aspect, right? Like people seeing something they haven't seen before. That you know what I'm saying? So you guys are doing both, which is really which is really nice. Yeah.
The funny thing about that episode was that at the beginning of the episode, Tatum says, I just met this guy 5 minutes ago. I literally have no idea what's going on. I'm told that that was all true.
Oh, really?
That wasn't an act. That wasn't an act. We were in Miami. Miami, the media room was a ghost town because we were in the middle of the bear market. So it was us and Kitco, and then maybe one other guy. And they had a whole big floor that was just empty. There was no media in there. So Vivek had come up to do an interview with Kitco, and then his publicity person said, "Hey, you guys want to interview Vivek?" We were like, "Okay."
Yeah.
and then the interview started, and that was we had just a few minutes to say, "Hey, what do we know about this guy? What are some jokes we could maybe do?" And then the interview started, and that was it. So, and the other thing is, a lot of times we have lots of cuts in our show, and we'll edit them in even if they aren't there. That show basically was from start to finish exactly what you saw. There wasn't really any going back and changing things or me suggesting jokes from off camera or stuff like that, because that stuff happens that you don't see. But this one was pretty much just straight through. Yeah.
Yeah. Tatum's hilarious. A lot of times I can't tell if he's being funny or if he's being serious, and it makes it that much better.
Yeah. Yep.
So I got a question for you guys. With regards to Bitcoin and diminishing returns, there have been diminishing returns in Bitcoin, in the Bitcoin price so far, in terms of the US dollar, well, really across all currencies. But some people are saying that diminishing curve it's going to turn back up almost like an S curve, and then we're going to get into parabolic returns again. Do you put any credence to that, AC?
Oh, okay. So diminishing returns previous cycle, right? I think that, and I mentioned this on your show before, that I think the previous cycle was kind of stunted a little bit by the FTX Celsius shenanigans. I think a lot of Bitcoiners who were in the space during that time absolutely thought we were going to hit six figures. So that impacts what the diminishing returns curve looks like today. And then number two, if we look at the adoption rate of Bitcoin and, believe whatever numbers you think it really is as far as the number of millions of people who've adopted it, versus the number of billions of people who have not yet, I think it's inevitable that we are going to break diminishing returns to the upside. Whether it's this cycle or next cycle, I firmly believe it is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, you already know what I think because the hopium. Carl, do you have any idea?
I'm okay with Bitcoin being slow and steady too. Like when we get the face ripping, face melting stuff, the problem is that you have a lot of room for that to fall back down, and retracement and all those all those terms that I don't fully understand and don't pretend to, liquidity and when it goes too high too fast, I think you have people who just want to ride the rocket and they're not there for the long-term investment. And, it's gonna be a roller coaster. I would almost rather it fly under the radar. I've heard BJ Dichter say this as well, that it flew under the radar for a while and you could stack sats and get some good appreciation, but not have to worry about it cratering because it climbed too fast.
Right.
Yeah. And Chris, I don't know if you still have I don't remember which episode it was, but I'd mentioned a couple waypoints that I thought were going to change and this cycle was going to break previous cycles. And I still kind of hold firm to that. One of those I think was the ETF approval, and another one was, and because of the ETF approval, and financial advisors balancing in and balancing out to maintain a percentage allocation through a bull market as well as a bear market, I think that's going to hold true. And that could also stunt a bear market, because what they're going to be doing is they're going to be buying into depreciation to rebalance those portfolios that they have. So it's an interesting dynamic looking at it from all of these different angles. With Wall Street in the game, I think it's gonna change things a little bit. And I will say that that's not to say that I think we're gonna go S-curve parabolic 10 million per coin anytime soon. But what I am saying is it's going to break diminishing returns.
Yeah, that makes sense. It really does, because the whole mass FOMO movement, the potential mass FOMO movement, that's gonna turn that up for sure. Yeah, and I always think these big guys who are buying in, like the bigger institutions, and not the ETF stuff, but just like a MicroStrategy, companies like MicroStrategy who are buying Bitcoin for their balance sheets. When if we get close to like a cycle top, are they gonna? I mean, are they gonna take profits? Are they gonna take a lot of profits? Are they gonna be like Michael Saylor and never sell? What do you guys think? I mean, there's no way to know, but you know what I mean.
What, give me an example. Which companies are you suggesting?
Well, let's just use MicroStrategy as an example. Let's say it wasn't Michael Saylor. It was just, or like Tesla. They own some Bitcoin still, right? So let's say Tesla.
I think Tesla, didn't they sell all of their Bitcoin? It's only held in SpaceX right now.
Okay. All right. So SpaceX. We get to, the end of next year, we get to $587,000 per Bitcoin. You think SpaceX is going to sell 20% of their Bitcoin just to take some profits up there?
I think a lot of it is going to depend on what the overall market really looks like. How bad is inflation, recession, depression looking like? How profitable is the company? From what I remember, and don't quote me on it, I think that at the time Tesla was selling Bitcoin for their balance sheet. They weren't quite as profitable. On the flip side, SpaceX was, and that's the reason why they didn't have to sell. And so what I'm really saying is there's a lot of outside influencers that are going to shape that decision on whether or not, in the case of SpaceX, they're going to sell. With MicroStrategy, if you believe everything that Michael Saylor has said, I don't think he's ever going to sell.
Right. All right. So I wanted to ask you guys about this dumb post that I reported on from Yuval Noah Harari from the WEF. Did you guys see this post? Hold on. When is it from? That's him. It's from May 21st, so Tuesday. Yeah, his whole point is Bitcoin is a currency of distrust, and that we should trust big banks and government. That's basically what he's saying. And this is like absolute bizarro world backwards, right? Like his argument is so backward. It's like literally backwards. I mean, and because Lynn Alden commented, all these people commented that Bitcoin is trustless. And the government, you have to trust the government. And they betray that trust all the time, right?
Sure. I just saw, similar to this, I just saw a post the other day about Canadian currency and the fact that there's a lot of denominations of bills that if you're still holding them, you just lost that money. It evaporated. They had $1,000 bills that they took out of circulation, but also on the lower end, they took some of the paper money. They had like the $1 and $2 bills they took out of circulation. I think it was more than that too. I don't recall the post, but the point is that basically, if your government can print money, and then if they can just take it out of circulation and say, hey, we're no longer honoring this particular bill because it doesn't make sense, if you don't turn it in during that period, then you just lost that money. It's just gone, So when a government has the power to say this is money, and I'm just kidding, it's not money anymore. And that happens around the world, where currencies are devalued and overnight they decide, okay, well, we've got to peg to this new currency. The old currency isn't worth anything. You can turn it in and get 50 cents on the dollar or whatever the equivalent is. A lot of times, that's happened so many times in so many places. It's sad.
Yeah. I saw a post a couple months back, and there was a picture of a guy who was remodeling his mom's house somewhere down in South America. And in the walls, they found all of her life savings, stacks and stacks of dollar bills. You remember seeing that one?
Yeah.
And, some of it was no longer, some of it was no longer used in exchange, and it had been devalued so much since she had earned it. I mean, it was just sad to see that, her life savings had been stolen from her through, hyperinflation.
I've still got from Miami last year, somebody was using Venezuelan bolivars. I think my camera's flipped. I'm sorry, but they just, because they're basically worthless. So they had a stamp, and they're just stamping their message on it and passing it out like business cards, basically, because the paper is absolutely worthless. I don't even know what 2 bolivars, Venezuelan bolivars, are worth.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's up, James? James says, end the Fed, buy Bitcoin. And also the story you just couple stories you just told reminded me of a sort of a different story from India about, I don't know when it was, maybe 10 years ago or 8 years ago. The government said we're going to reissue, I think it was like 1,000 rupee notes, or, one of the bills, but it was a higher value. It was like if it was the United States dollar, it would be like $100 bill. Like they said, you got to turn them all in and we'll give you new bills. And the reason they did that was actually because there was like all these nefarious organizations that were using those large bills. And so to sort of get them out or to hurt them, the Indian government said, oh, you got to turn in those bills. We'll give you new ones. And so if those, bad organizations had to come forward and turn in their money, then they'd sort of be exposed, right? So it was kind of little ingenious way to sort of flush out a lot of the bad stuff going on. I thought that was interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, the trick with that is that so many times, though, the fear of criminal activity is used as a way to strip away rights of privacy, which is so sad. Like another quote that I heard recently was, "If cash were invented today to be illegal, like it would never." Because why would you give something the power of the anonymity of cash to people that you want to control? You wouldn't do it. Why would you do it? So
great point. So what did you guys do on Bitcoin Pizza Day? Did you have pizza? I did, actually.
I did not.
You did not.
Yeah.
Okay.
My kids did. Yeah.
Sweet. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is Bitcoin as an election issue, right? Because apparently Trump is now accepting crypto or Bitcoin or both and everything. And do you think this is going to have any sway on the public, or or is it just going to be the same slow and steady adoption we've been seeing, and this is just a small part of that? Or do you think this might be some sort of catalyst that brings Bitcoin into a larger consciousness and might have a serious impact, or not?
Hard to say. I don't think we've only seen a few politicians who are actually campaigning for Bitcoin on principle. You've got people like, Cynthia, is it Loomis or Lemus? Loomis, I think. Yeah. People like that who really seem to get it, who are like fully orange pilled and they're campaigning for Bitcoin, not using Bitcoin as a campaign point for themselves, And I think that's the big dividing line is like, are you someone who is like, I believe in this so wholeheartedly that I will say it whether or not it's popular? Or are you a person who says, hey, this thing is popular, I guess I'll say it now,
Good distinction. Yeah, clearly that Trump is the latter, right? He's like, Trump just goes with the, he's just like an average politician in terms of trying to, whatever he can do to get votes, he'll do, right? That's what they all do for the most part. Yeah. He's a fiat politician, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a continuum there. There are going to be people who didn't originally believe. They weren't the Crusaders, but they were brought around, and they'll look like Johnny-come-latelys regardless of how sincere they are, just because of the timing. But I'm sure there are some people who are going to be sincerely swayed, but figuring out who those people are would be pretty tricky.
Right. So do you guys have any other stories that have been catching your eye this week? AC, you're posting a lot on LinkedIn. I love it.
Every once in a while. I think I've toned it down a little bit.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, there's also some posts today about that Bitcoin mining can use this stray energy. And I reported on this weird thing this morning that in California, it's like they have so much excess energy that the price of electricity is like minus, it's like a negative number. Meaning, I'm sure they're still charging people and all that, but they're losing energy, right? Because they can't use it. So it'd be nice if these, well, I was going to say it'd be nice if these climate idiots could get onto that train, because that's actually a legitimate thing, not like all the other climate nonsense, right? But they're grifters, so they won't. They don't really care about the issue. They just want to signal, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's wrap it up. Wrap it. You guys have any other thing you want to talk about?
No. I mean, on the topic you were talking about there, Marathon had a big announcement today on moving into Africa and doing mining stuff there. So I don't know if you saw that, and I just know enough that it's there, not to speak on it with any authority or anything. But that, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did report on this. Lynn Alden commented, but yeah, Fred Teal says, signed. Kenya and Marathon sign a historic deal for monetizing underutilized energy across Kenya and jointly developing technology projects. So this is so good, right? Like,
awesome.
This is so awesome. It's just, I mean, this is going to catch on, right? Because when someone like California is like, wait a minute, we can actually utilize all this energy that we're wasting, they're going to do it, right? I mean, why would they not?
Right. Well, it's stabilizing the grids. It's making energy more affordable. It's bringing energy to more people. So, and really, you don't have any nations that have who are what's the intersection? There's wealthy nations and high energy versus low energy, and all of the wealthy nations have lots of energy. You don't have any non-wealthy, low energy nations. You need energy to do those things. It brings people out of poverty. So it's funny that it's demonized so much, and yet it's such a power for good, in the world.
Totally.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people saying we should use any form of energy we can use, we should use to get the world out of poverty, and also give us the chance to develop better ways of creating and using energy, right? Like,
yeah.
Because if we're going the other way, we're just going back to the Stone Age, right? Oh, we can't use energy, and then we just literally go back to the Stone Age. So, great point.
Right.
So, all right, Carl, what else you working on? The BTC trading cards, you've been doing any of that?
Yeah, helping out with them a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bought my it's over there. I bought my whale pack at BitBlock Boom, and I'm not going to open it for like I think I'm going to wait like at least 5 years. I'm like, come on, let's make it exciting.
Wow. If you hop on their Telegram group, there's a couple different Telegram groups that trade those things peer to peer, basically.
Oh.
And it's incredible what some of those cards will go for. They've got the scarcity thing down really well, so they don't overprint stuff at all. And then like with the whale packs, they had some really fun things where it was there were for the halving edition whale packs, there were 3,125 packs printed, so 3.125K basically. So lots of fun nods, because Bitcoiners are nerdy and they love their nerdy numbers and stuff. And I mean, and those cards too, like if you happen to pull regardless of the rarity of the card, they're all numbered. And then if you pull like a 21 of something, it's worth more because Bitcoin. That's just how Bitcoiners are. If it's number 1 or if it's 21, it's going to be worth more. It's funny.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any other announcements? What's the website for Studio BTC, Carl?
It's just studio-btc.com, but I think you do need a www. We have a, a domain. Let me see. Yeah.
Right. I've never understood that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. But right now it's just pointing, we're having a site built, but right now it's just pointing to a Bitcoiner bio that links all of our, Twitter and Nostr and things like that. So.
Yeah, and so you guys are producing content for creators who, really in any genre, right? It doesn't have to be. They don't have to be talking about Bitcoin, right?
It doesn't have to be, but that's what we've been focused on. That's what we're going after is Bitcoin, content. So yeah. Unfortunately, the website is kind of like the car mechanic who has a beater. You do your own stuff last. So
yeah,
that's the way.
Yeah, but it. Look, all people need is your contact info. That's all. Like, some, big ornate website is not. It's not necessary. Honestly, right?
Yeah, we do need to showcase more what we've done though. So that'll be happening soon.
Cool. All right. Well, has the price done anything while we're on here? No. We're still good. We're still good. I just don't. I know AC, the price doesn't phase you at all, right? Like, just day to day doesn't.
I mean, I might check it once a day to see if it's a good day to buy in addition to my daily DCAs, but yeah, other than that, I've turned off all notifications. It was funny when we were at BitBlock Boom. Somebody was like, hey, he leaned over and he says, hey, buy the dip. And I was like, what dip? And then he's like, you don't have notifications turned on? And I'm like, no. I rely on you guys to tell me when to buy the dip.
Totally. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, AC. This has been really nice, a nice chat, sort of a roundup of the week's news. Yeah, I think my initial rant might have gotten us off on a weird foot today, but I'm okay with that. I mean, it is what it is. I'm still learning how to be a host and all that, and how to present my ideas. I tend to, instead of presenting my ideas in a very refined, professional way, like you, AC, you're that way. You're very refined, professional. No, dude, you are. I've had multiple people tell me that AC is so good when he explains things. Like, it's just there's a talent there. And when I'm teaching, it's different. But when I'm talking about Bitcoin and the cartel running the world, I tend to just have a club and just bash my way through it. And I don't mind that. But I am obviously trying to refine myself as well. So we'll see if that happens. But who knows? All right. That's it. Say goodbye.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Have a great weekend. Do something fun.
Later.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.